Hi everybody, my name's Emma Sayers and I'm really excited that we're getting closer and closer to the time when we can hear you guys and see you guys playing chamber music, because playing chamber music is just so much fun. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit about things relating to pianists in particular, because I'm a pianist, and there are a few things that I find are different about playing chamber music to working on your solo repertoire. Some things are the same, some things are a little bit different. One of the first things that I like to do is listen to a recording or several recordings of the piece that I'm going to play. And that's just to start to get an idea of the whole piece, because we want to just not be thinking about our own part, but the piece as a whole. And we really want to have in our ears and in our minds what the other instruments are doing before we even get together with the other players. So my cheat way at the very beginning is just to sit at the piano with my headphones on and just sort of maybe cruise through the piece, playing some little bits that I can, playing along with the recording, just as that very first step to getting my ears around what's going to happen. The next thing that I might do would be to listen a little bit further, but just with the score, and I like to mark when the other instruments have got important melodies, and I do that just by kind of putting a little mark around it, so that when I come to rehearse the part that I'm already aware that I don't have the main melody. So I mark important entries in other instruments so that I'm going to get ready for being ready to cue them or just be with them as they come in. That's part of my sort of initial preparation. Then working on the piece, as a pianist, in solo music you're always thinking about how to balance everything, right? You've got often multiple voices going on at the same time and you're trying to think what's most important. So we bring those skills into chamber music, but we're doing it with an awareness of what everyone else is doing too. So it's just that level more sophisticated, because at any point you have to think, well, what is the role of each part or each hand? Am I playing a melody, and is it the most important melody? Am I playing accompaniment? Am I an important bass line? I often feel when I'm playing chamber music like I'm a little bit lopsided. I feel like I'm actually supporting a lot more in the bass than I might normally do. And in the right hand, which often has the most important melody material, I might be playing quite strongly if I'm the main melody carrier, or really quite softly if I've got a lot of accompanying features in the right hand. So it takes a little bit of getting used to how differently you're going to play. If you have an important melody, you're going to really project it, probably more than you might normally with your solo material. But if you've got an accompaniment figure, and that's often in the right hand or perhaps shared between the hands, it might need to be a lot softer than you're used to. And when you're practicing that part just by yourself, you might feel a little strange, but you should have probably a strong bass and a much softer accompaniment. So it's really important very early on to start to think about what role each of your parts has. Once you get together as a group, then that's a really big conversation with everyone, trying to work out, well, which part is important here. That's something the whole group's going to do. But you want to get those ideas a little bit in place before you get together with the other people. As a pianist in the ensemble, hopefully you won't be the only person in the group with a full score, but you might be, and you're certainly the person that's got the full music in front of them at all times. So you do have a special role as the sort of main carrier of the information about all the piece. So you want to get to know the other parts as well as you can. And this might be challenging because the other instruments could be playing in clefs that you're not familiar with, or they might be transposing instruments. So early on in the learning process, find out if there's something that you don't know about how to read the other parts. You can't be expected to know everything at the very beginning, so you might need some help. You might need to ask some questions from the players about what key their instrument is in, or you might need to do just a little bit of research about what notes are in different clefs. But it's definitely worth at least having a basic understanding of the notes in different clefs so that you can have a good go at working out what notes somebody else is playing. Another thing about rehearsal, when you come together with the others, quite often in piano music, we might have a lot of notes to play, and you might find that there are some sections in your parts that are difficult and you're going to need a little bit of time to get on top of them. But when you come together as a group to rehearse, people don't really want to wait while you play your difficult semiquaver passage. So it's really, really useful if you've got some challenging sections like that to find a slightly simpler way of playing them for the earlier stages of rehearsal. So totally fine to leave out notes early on. But what we do need, if you're coming in to rehearse with the others, is that we will probably need the bass line, and we will need a little bit of a sketch of the harmony in there. So it's quite useful if you've got something tricky, just to work out an easier way, a simplified way of getting through that passage and whatever your working tempo is for the purposes of rehearsal. And you can always just continue to practice your own part, the challenging technical sections later on, because what's important when we're working together is how the whole piece is fitting together, and some little personal details can always be filled in over time. Another thing that is nice for the pianist to do for the other instruments is to make the other people feel comfortable about doing some intonation practice with the piano. This is no criticism of the other instruments. It's because playing with the piano is different to playing with other instruments, because the piano is setting the tuning for the whole group. We can't adjust it. And it's also fundamentally out of tune, the piano, just by its nature. It's not a perfect intonation. So I like to perhaps invite other instruments to feel okay about just going slowly through something while I'm just playing the chords or the harmonies underneath, so that the other instruments can settle into the intonation of the piano. So if you feel that maybe some intonation practice could be useful for the group, why don't you suggest, hey, would you like me to play that through slowly? Because sometimes people feel like they're supposed to get it all right the first time, but actually they do need a chance to practice that with you. So you can maybe take that initiative if you think it could be helpful. Now, there are a couple of practical things in working in a chamber group as a pianist that I found are really important not to forget. One is make sure there are bar numbers. Actually, that's for everybody, not just pianists. If there aren't bar numbers in your music, then write them in and get everyone else to do it. Otherwise, you'll spend half the rehearsal trying to find where to go from. So that's thing one. That's really easy, but do it before you get into the first rehearsal. The other one is sort out the page turns early on. You definitely don't want to leave it until the day of the competition or the day of the performance to work out what you're going to do about the page turns. Believe me, I know. So you want to sort that out early, and when you've got some challenging page turns, then you need to decide, are you going to memorize a little bit of the music so you turn early or you turn late? Could you perhaps photocopy a page or photocopy just one line and stick it on somewhere? Or are you going to need a page turner? I would suggest that asking someone to turn pages for you is probably the third option. Try to solve it some other way if you can, because it just introduces another element into the performance, and that can sometimes be challenging and it can bring up problems. It's quite difficult actually to turn pages for somebody. So if you can possibly come up with a solution for your music without getting a page turner involved, I would definitely go for that option. But whatever you do, sort it out well ahead of time. You just don't want that stress at the last minute. And if you have asked somebody to turn pages for you, make sure that you practice with them, because they need the chance to practice, particularly if there are any turnbacks. All right, I think that's all from me. I can't wait to hear you all. I hope that you've been having a wonderful time working on your music, and it was just going to be wonderful to hear all this chamber music. So